What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohn here on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, part of the Fans First Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cohn. Grant, I think the theme of the show can be summed up by Fat Joe. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Because we got a little breaking news. Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions gets 4 years and $120 million with $77 million guaranteed. And Brandon Aiyuk is just sitting back saying, oh boy, my deal just got better.
Jeez. So this is all the more reason for the 49ers to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Before we get to why they should do that, let's hypothesize what Aiyuk and his team are asking for from the 49ers, because it has been reported that the Niners and Aiyuk are very far apart, and we assume that they'll come to an agreement eventually, or some people do. But why would Aiyuk ask for less than $30 million a year if Amon-Ra St. Brown just got it?
Right. And
right. He's objectively better than Devontae Smith, who got $25 million a year. He's in the same exact tier as Amon-Ra St. Brown, who just got 120 over, so $30 million a year. That's the price. And Aiyuk might be able, maybe Aiyuk's worth that on another team. I don't think he's ever going to be worth that to the 49ers. Him and his 3 catches a game in the playoffs. So, I mean, would you be willing to give him a 3-year, $90 million contract?
It's so hard because if the 49ers are just decided they're never going to target you enough to justify that money, then no, the answer should be no to anybody, right? No. So that's the question is, will the 49ers target you enough to get your money's worth? I don't think the 49ers have gotten their money's worth from George Kittle, frankly. Not because Kittle's not a good player, because they don't target him enough.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Let's talk about what Andy Reid would do if he were coaching the 49ers and running this organization. He would give more targets to Kittle. Look at how much he targets Kelsey. Would he be paying Deebo and Aiyuk? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And would he be paying McCaffrey? Probably not. Maybe. But he'd be paying Kittle and featuring Kittle. And the fact that the Niners pay Kittle and don't feature Kittle is strange, because he's great. He hasn't fallen off at all. When he's healthy, he's freaking great. And he's like the 4th option in the passing game a lot of the time. Doesn't make sense. Real quick, this contract for Amon-Ra St. Brown, horrendous.
You don't think?
Are you more afraid of Detroit? Oh, they locked in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, cool. This is going to hurt you. The only wide receiver who's worth this much money is like Tyreek. Maybe.
Well, so the cap's going to go up. Everybody's number is going to go up. It is a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And just for clarity, just so people get an idea of what we're talking about, here's Amon-Ra St. Brown's stats. Let me throw him up here. He has.
Okay.
He got 164 targets last year, 146 the year before, 119 as a rookie. He is getting so many more targets than Brandon Aiyuk.
That's such a good point. And it's like, is Amon-Ra St. Brown better than Brandon Aiyuk? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, the Lions feel that they can justify the investment. That's 164 targets. And you look at someone like Puka Nacua. Is he better than Brandon Aiyuk? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. He got 9 catches in 1 playoff game this year. Aiyuk got 9 and 3. So the Rams eventually can feel like, this is a good investment for us. He's so integral to our team and our offense, but I don't see how the Niners can say that about Aiyuk. Man, also, people talk about Aiyuk's efficiency in the regular season, and they really dump on Deebo for how he played in the playoffs, mostly because he didn't play well in the Super Bowl. But if you look at the 3 games, Aiyuk was even worse than Deebo. He had 20 targets, 9 catches. That's not good. People said that he didn't get enough targets. He didn't do anything with his targets. You could argue he got too many targets with that type of a clip. 45%. That's Dante Pettis stuff. Sorry, Dante.
We got an article from Mike Silver yesterday where he said that Brandon Aiyuk is asking for more than $25 million a year. $25 million is what Devontae Smith got. Aiyuk, I'm sure, thinks he's better than Devontae Smith. He's, of course, going to ask for more than that. You think he's in the $30 million a year range, or do you think he will be now because of this deal?
Well, he's going to think that he should be. He doesn't have the numbers to back it up. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown does, but that's just a function of getting the targets. Aiyuk is good enough to get 164 targets in a season on another team. He'll never get it here. So he might feel, man, I'm better than him. I should get that money. And maybe another team, maybe there's one other team that feels like, you know what, this would be a good investment for us because we could pay him $30 million a year. We could give him 160 targets. He'd be great with that type of a workload. He'll never get it with the Niners, but he'll get it here. So we'll go for it. And who was it? It was Daniel Jeremiah this morning who tweeted that he keeps coming back to two teams that make the most sense for a potential trade for Aiyuk: the Jaguars and the Colts, who own pick 15. So that's interesting.
The Colts. Ooh.
The Colts.
You know what? I could see them making a move. That would be interesting. Although, if you're the Colts, like, do you want Brandon Aiyuk or do you just draft like Brock Bowers and be like, he's going to be our wide receiver? I don't know. I hadn't thought of the Colts. The Jags would be fascinating just because you know who they'd be dealing with, Mr. Trent Baalke, which, you know.
The hit rate on wide receivers isn't exactly high in round one. I know people think it's easy, but I think the hit rate wide receivers is like in the 30%. It's you can miss. So maybe, and you can find good wide receivers in round two. So maybe a team like the Jaguars or the Colts are thinking, take a chance on drafting a wide receiver, but let's just trade for Aiyuk. We know he's really good. We can afford him. Let's just take the guesswork out of it. And the Niners can afford to take this risk because they have Kittle and Jennings and Deebo and McCaffrey, and they don't want to pay him. So they'll take the risk. We don't want the risk. Let's take Aiyuk. I think it would make sense for those two teams.
So it's funny that you mentioned the hit rate on wide receivers. I saw this graphic this comes from Paul Hembekides, who's a researcher for ESPN Radio this morning. And if you just judge it by second contracts, which players have gotten a second contract, this is from 2000 through 2019. So you've got a lot of 20 drafts in there. The hit rate on wide receivers is the lowest of any position in the NFL. There have been 77 total wide receivers taken. Only 21 of those have gotten a second contract. So that's only 27%. So you are missing essentially on 73% of the wide receivers that you draft in the first round. So that's your argument if you're the 49ers and you're trying to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Look, you guys can't get this right. We've got a guy, he's good. He's worth your first round pick.
But the argument for trading Aiyuk for the Niners is like, what you could do is trade Aiyuk, get that top 20 pick, spend it on an offensive lineman where the hit rate is incredible, and then trade down from 31, take a wide receiver right around pick 35, 36, where you got Deebo. And I mean, you can get good receivers in that spot every year, and the risk is much lower. So that's something you could do. And again, it's like, is that guy going to be as good as Aiyuk right away? Maybe not, but look what the team he's going to. It's all about putting 8 men in the box against the Niners, stopping McCaffrey and stopping Kittle and stopping Deebo. So Aiyuk or any split end wide receiver is going to get a lot of space to do work. It is will.
You mentioned the offensive line. Again, going by this chart, this is from Paul Hembekides of ESPN. He's a researcher there. Going just by second contracts, centers in the last 20 drafts, there have been 11 or 12 centers drafted in the first round. 11 of those centers have gotten a second contract. That's a 92% hit rate. For tackles, it's 59%.
The team that drafted him. The team that drafted him, yes. Yeah.
For tackles, it's 59%. For guards, it's 50%. So the offensive line, and that is out of position groups, those are 1, 2, and 3 of any other position. So you've had a much better chance of finding a good offensive lineman in the first round over the last 20 years than you do any other position. So your theory of trade Aiyuk and don't necessarily use that pick for a wide receiver makes a lot of sense because you can maximize it.
No doubt. I mean, trading Aiyuk 1-for-1 for a rookie wide receiver is really scary. That's what you tried with Buckner. And you're putting that player, I mean, it's not just that you're putting that player in a tough position, but what are the odds? What are the odds really that guy is going to be as good as Brandon Aiyuk? You might like his talent better, but there's a lot of talented wide receivers who don't quite maximize that stuff. And Aiyuk, his talent was late first. He maximized it. And you might just trade him for a top 20 pick. Like, is the next wide, so better to just trade for a pick and spend it on an offensive lineman, trade down, and then get your wide receiver later. Like, that's what the Steelers do. What, the Chiefs got Rashee Rice in round 2 last year, and he was the number 1 receiver on a Super Bowl winning team. Juju Smith-Schuster was a second round pick. He was the number 1 receiver on a Super Bowl winning team. Like, you could find a guy there.
I think that this Amon-Ra deal, I mean, look, I know Brandon Aiyuk was going to ask for a lot, but man, it's a lot easier for him to say, I want $30 million a year too. He's like, I'm not even getting the targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1,500 yards last year on 164 targets. Brandon Aiyuk had 1,300 yards on 105 targets.
And see, that's why another team like the Colts or the Jaguars could look at Aiyuk and see a bargain here. It's like, yeah, we got to trade a first-round pick to get him, but since the Niners don't throw him the ball that much, we might be able to get him for $27 million a year, where we could get like $31 million a year value out of him just by throwing the ball over and over and over and over again, like the Niners won't.
And, it's funny because I thought like that Aiyuk was going to be a part of this sort of next core, right? That the core group of guys going forward for the next 5 years. You figure it was going to be Aiyuk, Bosa, Purdy, and they would kind of have to figure it out. Maybe Warner's probably still young enough to leak into that. Now, if you're moving Aiyuk, you're going to need another core piece. And it's crazy to say, but I think it's going to happen. I think it is absolutely going to happen. I don't think Aiyuk is on this team Friday.
I don't think he is either. And you know what? I don't think Deebo's on this team in a year. Like, I don't think they need to be spending all this money on wide receivers. Let's talk about their quarterback. Like, Ayuk's a great fit with Trevor Lawrence for sure. I think he's a great fit with Anthony Richardson. Big arm, strong quarterbacks who can really take advantage of Ayuk's full skill set and route tree, not just make him run over the middle, which is sort of what the Niners ask him to do. With Purdy, dude, I like Jennings, McCaffrey, and Kittle. That core, that trio right there is already like what he needs. And then you just get a couple of guys on the outside who run 4.3s and keep guys honest. That's kind of what the Chiefs do. The Chiefs have Kelsey. They always have a really good slot receiver. They'll have a guy on the outside who kind of keep you honest. They got Hollywood Brown, but they don't spend a lot of money for they're just dominating over the middle right now, even though their quarterback has a huge arm. And like, that's what the Niners want to do. So you have your guys over the middle. What are you spending $50 million a year on your wide receivers so they can go like, really, Deebo and Aiyuk in the playoffs, 42 targets, 22 catches, the two of them, 1 touchdown. Is that Purdy's fault?
I think it's Jimmy's fault, to be honest.
No, I'm talking this year, 2024. Is it Purdy's fault? Maybe Purdy can't quite get the ball to him where they need it, or they're not worth $50 million. It's more than $50 million. It's 54 now.
I think that I have much more confidence in the 49ers to find a way to make the offense work without Brandon Aiyuk than a lot of people. Dreams24 asks, Brandon Aiyuk to the Cowboys. Look, I don't think that makes sense for the Cowboys. Like, just pay CeeDee Lamb. But the Cowboys also gave up a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. So pick up the phone and call Jerry. Who knows what the Cowboys are going to do? They're a terribly run organization.
I really don't like the model of the roster building model of spending as much money as possible on 1 quarterback and 2 wide receivers. Why would you do that? Look at the Chiefs. They're the gold standard. Would they do that? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's hard to model your team after the Chiefs when they have the greatest quarterback of his generation.
But that's not necessarily why they're doing it. I mean, they have a great defense. They have a very good offensive line. They have a great tight end. I mean, they're just deciding it's not super smart to invest in wide receivers. They're very expensive and they're fairly common. You can find them in every draft. They're around. You can get a guy like Hollywood Brown for $8 million. You can find a guy like Rashee Rice in round 2.
Brother Bob, I like this point. A YouTube channel member says, silly waiting for other teams to set the market. This is the scary part for the 49ers. People are like, oh, what about when Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase get their deals? Yes, but they're better than Brandon Aiyuk. So their deals are not going to affect him as much. But somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown getting this much money, that does affect Aiyuk because he's much, much closer as a player to him and to Devontae Smith. So that's why if you want to move on a guy, if you want to re-sign a guy, do it as fast as possible because the price is only going up. And today's a perfect example with Amon-Ra St. Brown getting $30 million a year.
So let's follow your logic, right? If you want to sign a guy and extend him, do it as soon as possible, like the Lions did, like the Eagles did.
Like they did with
So the
Drake
Niners
Greenlaw.
aren't doing that.
Dre Greenlaw was a perfect example.
Right.
They got Greenlaw for his last deal was a steal.
Hold on, I'm not done. So if you want to extend a guy, if you want to sign him, do it as soon as possible, like those two teams with those two players. The Niners aren't doing that, which means
they don't want to sign him.
They don't want to sign him. Right. That's what that means. So
well, except
he's
for
open for business. Hey, have you let Brandon Aiyuk and his agent call teams and seek a trade? I don't want to answer that. Oh, okay. So Brandon Ayuk's working the phones. That's what we have to believe. You could have said no.
Right. That cutting off Mayoko. First, when's the last time Matt Mayoko's question was ever cut off by anybody in the 49ers? First of all. Second of all, the fact that he didn't answer it and he just jumped all over it proves that it's true. Yeah. I've also been hearing from some people that have told me definitely that is the case, that Ayuk's people have been calling around. Yeah. It's obvious, but I will say the Niners sign everybody usually in August or September. So, you can't say, well, this proves they don't want Brandon Aiyuk because they wanted Nick Bosa. They signed him in September. They wanted, Deebo Samuel. They signed him in August. They wanted Kittle. They signed him in August. So I wouldn't go that far.
No, I just thought it was interesting. Like, first of all, why did Mayoko ask the question? That's a specific question. I didn't expect that from him.
Because Florio wrote about it.
He was just throwing it out there? Like, do you think Mayoko was just throwing it out there? It occurred to him?
No, Mike Florio wrote about it.
There you go.
So that's, I think, why.
So Florio wrote about it. Mayoko asked about it. He got cut off. You got to think that probably there's something going on there. He's open for business. Now, from the Niners' perspective, if they trade him for pick 15, pick 17, maybe there's one offensive lineman they like in that range. And maybe they'd rather not do the trade if he's not there. Or maybe they want Brock Bowers. I don't know what they want. But it seems like any deal might be contingent on which player is available. On the other hand,
yes,
they may feel there's no way we're going to give Aiyuk more than $30 million. There's no way he's settling for less. We got to trade him. Because that was the issue with Buckner. They weren't going to go over 20 a year. His ego wouldn't allow him to take less than 20 a year. I don't put it that way. But they were just at an impasse and they knew it. It'd be the same thing here.
Brother Bob says, Reed and Mahomes greater than Kyle Levy and Purdy, no comparison. And oh, by the way, if you're one of those Niner fans that wants revenge on Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you're going to get your chance to get it. Because guess what? They ain't going anywhere. The Chiefs just re-signed Andy Reid and Brett Veach to multi-year extensions through 2029. So they ain't going anywhere. Steve Spagnuolo signed an extension after the year. He ain't going anywhere. So they are the roadblock.
Can we talk about why the Chiefs are smart for building their team the way they do? And I think it's kind of a cop-out to say, well, they have Mahomes, so don't study what they do. No. By prioritizing tight end and slot receiver, it's an interesting choice. Those are two, you could say, undervalued positions. Slot receivers and tight ends who are elite don't necessarily make a ton of money because they're looked at as less than the elite wide receivers. So they always have a good slot receiver. They always have Kelsey, and everyone else is replaceable. Everyone else.
Did they prioritize tight end, or did they draft Travis Kelce in the second round and end up hitting a really big home run?
I mean, it's hard. Once you get a good tight end, you hold on to him and you use him.
I think
they realize why the Niners don't use Kittle the way he should be getting 150. And that's the thing. So you trade Aiyuk. What they should do, increase Kittle's targets, increase Jennings' targets. Like that. That's how you. Whoever you trade for, you're not asking them to get 100 targets his rookie year. It's like, no. You be the fourth option. Be good.
The frustrating thing about the Kittle situation is the year he did get the kind of targets you'd expect was 2018. He got 136 targets, and he set the NFL record for receiving yards by a tight end. So he has shown that he can do that. That's what's holding back his production. It's not skill, it's opportunity.
Opportunity, absolutely. Look at Kelsey's targets in his mid 30s in Kansas City. They're more than the Niners give Kittle. It's silly. I really feel like now this is the time to trade Aiyuk, which they will. You could trade Deebo next year, and this offense should really be about Kittle, Jennings, McCaffrey. That's your trio. And frankly, it's a hell of a trio.
You could do better than Jennings. I love Jennings, but he's not my cornerstone piece. He had 19 catches last year. I know
he had 10 catches in the playoffs, though, on 13 targets. He was good.
Oh, he was very good.
He was 100%. Good. I want to see what he can do with 80 targets. I want to see what he could do with 80 targets. I want to extend him now. We could talk about that later, but I want to extend him now. That's another guy going into the last year of his contract. Everyone's worried about Aiyuk. Give him a contract now before he gets those targets, and you might get him for $7, $6, $8 million a year. His value could go up a lot if he actually gets opportunities.
Brother Bob says Kyle Levy didn't really scout Mahomes, so cursed. First of all, I don't like all this Marv Levy slander. Marv Levy was a really good coach. Leave Marv Levy
was
alone.
A nice Jewish man too. He also went to 4 Super Bowls in a row, which Kyle hasn't accomplished, and he lost to some of the greatest teams of all time.
Nobody else has accomplished.
These are some of the greatest teams of all time. Like the Niners are supposed to be that juggernaut.
Well, the Chiefs may win 3 straight Super Bowls, which is something that no one has ever done. Mr. Reason says Stats is dumb. Jennings is a beast. I never said he wasn't a beast. I said he had 19 catches last year, which is a fact. And I don't want to see him get 80 targets because I think you can do better than him. Juwan Jennings was a 7th round draft pick. Juwan Jennings is not very fast. He's a fine player. He does a great job in the role that he has. He's fantastic. But I don't want him to be my number 2. No.
Can we talk about Jennings now? Let's talk about Jennings. Because I think that Jennings is a great fit with Purdy. Maybe on another team, you'd want a guy with more speed, but Purdy is not going to be taking that many deep shots anyway. He's going to keep you honest with that stuff, but he wants to throw the ball over the middle. He's great at throwing the ball over the middle, and he really needs a guy like Jennings who's 6'3", who can make some super acrobatic catches, and he can make catches with bodies all around him in traffic. I mean, it's a great fit. And I think that those are 2 guys who should be playing together for a while. And I think that you can get him for relatively cheap at the wide receiver position because he's not a wide receiver. He's a slot receiver.
I'm fine with extending Juwan Jennings. Absolutely. Yeah. Plus the blocking, the mentality that he brings to the team. Love it. All that stuff. Hooray. I'm not paying $25 million for it. If he wants to play for 8 to 10 million, here you go, Juwan Jennings.
8 to 10.
Yes.
He's in that range. And I think that you could get $8 to $10 million worth of production out of him on the 49ers. He'd be worth it. He shouldn't be going anywhere else. He's got it was funny too, is where was Purdy going with the Super Bowl on the line? Who was he looking at?
He was looking at Juwan
Jennings.
Chris Knight says Rob hates Jennings. It's so obvious. I don't hate Jennings. Michelle Majuk hates Juwan Jennings. She's on Fridays with me. Michelle is the Juwan Jennings hater. I love the guy. Like,
he made some incredible catches, some incredible plays in the playoffs. That one-handed catch he made over the middle against the Packers. I was at Detroit. I forget what it was.
Detroit.
Third
down. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, man.
Again, there's nothing.
Ops.
I just don't want him to be my number 2. That's all. That doesn't mean I hate Juwan Jennings. Those are 2 totally different things.
Rasheed Rice last year got 102 targets. Rasheed Rice. Yeah, I think really Jennings can handle 75.
I don't, unless you don't have anybody else. Like, man, that seems like a lot for me. Brother Bob says, fine, you prefer Kyle Grant as in Bud Grant's son. Bud Grant was another good coach that got to 4 Super Bowls. Damn, man.
Kyle hasn't even done that yet. I mean, calling him Marv Levy is almost a compliment.
Let's not hate on
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
a compliment. Yeah.
The whole idea that if you don't win a Super Bowl, you suck. Like, no, it's really hard to win Super Bowls. Okay. That's all. Like,
it's really hard to lose them the way Kyle's lost them too. That's fair to say. Yeah.
But you got to get there to lose them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He can always tell himself that when he's remembered ultimately for the way he lost 3 Super Bowls. Hey, at least I got there.
He lost 2 as a head coach. Okay. The fact that he gets credit, that the offensive coordinator gets the blame for blowing a 28-3 lead. I've never seen that before, ever. I've never seen any other offensive coordinator.
He was just largely culpable for the biggest collapse ever.
Does anybody blame Ben Johnson for the Lions collapse in the NFC Championship game? I haven't heard a single person. I haven't heard
it's your fault.
Anybody.
I just did
what do they say? Oh, Dan Campbell's an idiot. He shouldn't have gone for it.
No, Ben Johnson. I need to do this to be consistent with Rob. It's all your fault, Ben. I just did it. Boom in your face.
There's one. But no, we don't do that with anybody else.
But
we do it with Kyle Shanahan. That's really weird to me.
But I mean, I think the thing is, it's like, well, he went on to do it 2 more times. So you can't like ignore the fact that he freaking did it as an offensive coordinator the year before. It's like, okay, well, that's your pattern then.
But he was getting blamed immediately after the Super Bowl. It wasn't like, oh, we waited until he lost the 2 other Super Bowls and now we're going back. He was catching all that. Nobody even knows.
A lot of reasons. A lot of people were like, well, what about Dan Quinn? And that's true.
No one even knows the defensive coordinator for the Falcons' name that year.
I agree. That's true. But what about Kyle? Like, he's not like he helped in any way.
I mean, he definitely didn't help, but
no,
he gets all the blame. Brother Bob
shouldn't get all the blame. I agree with you on that. He shouldn't. Dan Quinn shouldn't be a head coach right now. That's silly.
I think Adam Peters is going to flop in Washington.
Like, that's your first move as a GM is to hire Dan Quinn. Like, forget it. Why did they hire you? Sorry.
And I heard that the reason that Washington had all those quarterbacks in at the same time, Mike Florio said in an interview, was because the owner could only be there for one day. And so he wanted to meet all the quarterbacks. It's like, oh, man. Things are going.
Oh my God.
Hey
guys, I just want you to know I'm really committed to this football team right here, but I only got one day to do this because I gotta go. I got other stuff more important than vetting the quarterback we're gonna draft. So let's 10 minutes per.
Yeah.
Tell me, give me 2 truths and a lie.
Right. Like, what is that? Oh God.
Give me 2 truths and a lie.
I'm happy to be out of the quarterback. I mean, from a content creator standpoint, it sucks because quarterback controversy is good for business, but I am happy that the Niners are out of that. I mean, John Lynch said it in his press conference this week, like it's all about building around Brock Purdy now. All your evaluations of these players are about who fits with Brock, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Who fits with Brock? Does this work? How does it maximize? How does it help Brock?
You know what he should do then? He should probably finish that offensive line. That's like the project he's been working on for 8 years. Like, just finish it.
It's like a government highway project.
Yeah, just finish it. You're so close.
Dreams
like a quarter mile left.
Sorry, I missed the super chat. Would you be surprised if we draft a quarterback in the first round? Yes, I would be incredibly surprised.
I'd be a little surprised.
Now, if it was later in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it later. Not at all, but not in the first round.
Yeah.
I think there's a better chance of a quarterback being picked at number 31 in the draft. It just won't be the 49ers. It'll mean that they trade out of that position and someone else will trade up to get back into the first round and take a quarterback. But there's no way the Niners are going QB in the first round.
No. Now they could take a quarterback later. That'd be great. I think it would be cool if they took a quarterback on day 3, but not before then.
SS Pearl says, Grant, here's $5 for a new laptop. My ears can't take the static anymore.
Thank
MacBook
you.
Pro.
Has the audio been bad today? Just want to know.
I haven't noticed anything.
I think I'm on a streak of 2 in a row, and I think I may have figured it out, but I don't want to jinx it or say it out loud. And I also am talking with a special technology professional expert at 11, so we'll have to see. But I think I figured it out.
Technology expert, huh?
Oh yeah, he's an expert in technology. It's impressive.
So we got the draft obviously coming up tomorrow. My original topic for today's show got blown up because I'm on Ross St. Brown. Oh, wait, Brother Bob says I skipped a super. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Stats, you prove my point. I never said he sucks. Okay. My bad, Bob.
Who are we talking about?
I have no idea.
Jennings? No.
I guess. Or Kyle. No, I think he's talking about Kyle. He never said
Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you disparage him by calling him all these other names, you're kind of saying he sucks a little bit, Bob. Just saying.
No, I think what everyone would agree with Kyle is that he's flawed.
Yes.
Like we all are. But the ability to put together a team that can get to the Super Bowl twice in 4 years, impressive. The ability to lose Super Bowls the way he has is hard to fathom, considering how good he seems most of the time. Like, I don't know what else to say, man. It overshadows everything, all the good things he's done. I know people who know ball and be like, oh yeah, Kyle's great and XYZ, he can get guys open. Yeah, but like, what's he famous for? Losing Super Bowls.
Coming up with an offensive system that literally is now the system in the NFL.
No, what's he famous for? That's what people who know ball know him for. But people that just walking down the street, Kyle Shanahan, oh yeah, you lost the Super Bowl twice, 3 times. That was crazy. You were winning. You didn't know the rules. And so, like, that's what people know him for.
He did know the rules.
Oh, yeah, he knew. He changed the story 3 times.
You really think Kyle Shanahan didn't know the rules?
He changed the story 3 times. We didn't want Mahomes to get the ball again. Well, he was going to get the ball again because both teams get it. Okay. Well, we didn't want our defense to go out. We wanted to get the ball third. No, it wasn't going to be a third possession. They were going to go for 2. Oh, we wanted to rest our defense after we said that wasn't an issue. He's like, dude, you changed your story 3 times. No, you didn't know. You didn't know the rules.
Well, he did change the story.
And your freaking players didn't know the rules either. They're on record.
After the game, he did say, we didn't do it because the defense was tired. And then later in the press conference after the Super Bowl, like the next day or whatever, he said, oh, yeah, the defense was gassed. So I didn't like that.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
Dreams24 says Grant's Blazers giving Night at the Roxbury vibes.
Kind of. Me, you,
it
him,
needs
me,
to be
him,
a little shinier. I would like a little shinier out of you. Also,
I need that.
That skit is like 50 years old.
Do people remember Night at the Roxbury? That's very 1990s. That was like before Will Ferrell was super famous.
I don't know. That's pretty niche.
That was the beginning of Will Ferrell. Chris Kattan was like arguably more famous than Will Ferrell at that time. People don't remember Chris Kattan.
No,
you don't remember Chris Kattan.
I do. But
okay.
So my original topic for the show today was I wanted to actually give the 49ers a little credit in drafting players, because I think they're actually better at it than you think. Let me throw this up on the screen if you're watching. This is a list of the Pro Bowlers that the 49ers have drafted. They have drafted a Pro Bowler in 5 out of 7 drafts in the Shanahan era. And one of the drafts they didn't get a Pro Bowler was 2020 when they got Brandon Aiyuk. And they also got Dre Greenlaw in 2019, who somehow has never made a Pro Bowl and is ridiculously good. So I think they have had some misses, yes, but they have. What other team can say we draft Pro Bowlers basically every single year?
That's true. That's a good call.
In 2017, it was Kittle. Great. Then it was Warner in 2018. Then Bosa and Deebo in 2019 and Greenlaw. Yeah. Aiyuk in 2020, although he hasn't made a Pro Bowl. Hufanga in 2021. Purdy in 2022. Last year was a disaster. Can't defend it.
So we got round 5, round 3, round 1, round 2, round 1, round 5, round 7. They really have had some epic day 3 picks, some epic later picks. Be nice if they're a little bit more consistent in round 1. They've really wasted some capital there. But again, look at their team. The talent isn't the problem. Talent isn't the issue. It's the most talented team in football. And they still haven't won a Super Bowl. And that brings us back to the head coach. If he had any other name, if he didn't have the clout he had, people would have 2 and 2, put it together. It's his fault. You have the best roster in football. You can't win a Super Bowl. Like other people, if his name was Dan Campbell, people say, oh, dude, what does this guy need? He got the best team. Can't get it done. But Kyle doesn't get that. Media's legitimately scared of this man.
I mean, he gets it from you. You blame him for everything that's gone wrong.
That's right.
It's his fault Darrell Luter touched the punt.
And then I'm surprised he doesn't want to have a drink with me at the NFL annual meetings. It's like, what's up with that?
I'm kind of surprised at that, too.
What's up with that?
I've seen that man have some drinks. Let me just say
that. We can have a good time. Talk about, movies, books. What are you reading?
Nathan Eds says, do you believe Deebo will be traded after June 1st if Brandon Aiyuk isn't traded on draft night? Funny you should mention that, Nathan. Mike Silver, in his latest column, kind of like, to me, it was sort of out of nowhere, said that Deebo Samuel has been assured by his bosses, was the phrase, that he will not be traded on draft night or after the draft. Because remember, if Deebo's traded after June 1st, the cap hit is only $6.6 million. So it would have been financially possible. But according to Adam Silver, according to Mike Silver, Deebo has been told he won't be traded this year.
Yeah, and no, because they're going to trade Aiyuk. You don't need to trade them both in the same offseason. You might want to keep one of them and then trade Deebo next year. I'm with that. Real quick, Brother Bob also had a super chat you skipped at 9:28 where he says Kyle Levy is great like Mark Levy at losing Super Bowl.
I put that on the screen.
Did you?
Yes, I'll put it up again. There you go, Brother Bob. I put it up on the screen.
So he put it on the screen, Brother Bob, but he wants you to read it too. You have to read it, and you have to do it with emphasis and passion.
Kyle Levy. Great, like Mark Levy at losing Super Bowls. Who's Mark Levy, brother?
Who's Mark Levy?
That's what I want to know.
That's what I want to know.
Corey Soto says relieved to have a offseason QB drama until next offseason, but good to have a year off. I don't think there's going to be any. Assuming that Brock doesn't get hurt and plays the way he played, the owner has said they're going to pay him.
Those are big assumptions.
I agree with you, but like the Niners are basically like telling you, we want to pay this guy. The owner said it. John Lynch said it. Like, it's funny because we'll see how those negotiations actually go. We'll see if they wait till August to sign him. But everything the Niners are telling you is they have no problem paying Brock Purdy.
Sure, yeah, whatever, man. Their feelings change all the time. Like, remember, let's go back to after they lost the Super Bowl the first time. with Jimmy. Like, they had an opportunity to get Tom Brady, and they were like, you know what? He just doesn't have the future that Jimmy Garoppolo has. Jimmy's better than Tom Brady now. Look at their numbers. That's all kind of stuff they told themselves, and they were freaking wrong. So they were really high on Jimmy for a long time. People forget that. They're really high on Brock right now. Let's see how they feel in a year. Things change. Life is funny. A lot happens in a year.
A lot of things can change. Yes, 100%. Although I will say Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy Garoppolo ever was.
No question. But let's see how they feel in a year.
Texan by Nature 88 says Brock is getting a historical deal. They are dumb. He probably will get a historic deal because quarterbacks like usually set the market when they get a new deal. So Jimmy got a historical deal. That's sort of how it goes.
I got a bone, not a bone to pick, but this is like one of my little bugaboos. Historic. There's a difference between historical and historic. Historical is like having to do with things in the past. And historic means like something that was incredible and only happened. You know what I mean?
Making history.
Making history. Correct. So
buildings are by
nature. Get it right.
We all have those little weird things.
Yeah.
Buildings are historical. A deal is historic, right? Was that fair?
Yep. Correct.
Hold on. What is this? Texas by Nature 88 blocked me. Yelling. We got drama in the chat.
I don't understand.
Drama in the chat today. I thought Silver's article was interesting too, because he said that, Aiyuk could be traded on draft night, which I think if he is traded, it's not going to be until they're not going to trade him now. It's going to be during the draft when that team is on the clock. But Silver also said he could be traded on Friday for a second and a third in 2025. That to me would be, if you only
that's
get
a really interesting point. And the fact that Eric Branch asked the question the way he did kind of, it's like, oh, is he going to be on the team on Friday? Well, I would anticipate it. Yeah, sure. Well, what about Saturday? Because what to your point, what Silver said is a lot of teams think the Niners may end up settling for a second round pick here. And if they do, maybe it's because they'd rather have a second plus a bunch of other picks than a first. I don't know. Maybe they don't want a 1-for-1 trade.
A second round pick this year and a third next year. Oh man, I can't see giving him up for that unless he has really gone to the 49ers and said I'm holding out. There's no way I'm going to play which I don't think he would. I just can't. You don't have to do anything if you're the 49ers. He's under contract for the 5th year option. You can franchise him in 2025. You can franchise him in 2026. So you are under no pressure to trade Brandon Aiyuk whatsoever. There is, if you were going to trade him, you have to get a better deal than a second and a third next year.
But would you rather have let's say Brandon Aiyuk held out 8 games? Would you rather have 9 games of Brandon Aiyuk plus the playoffs, and then you lose him and you'll get a 3rd round comp pick next year, or just trade him now, get the 1st round pick or whatever you can get, and get a player who wants to be here, who's cheap, who's faster than him, and who's will be here for 17 games? I mean, that's what I would do. I think that's what they're going to.
It's not a 1st round pick or whatever you can get. It's a 1st round pick. If I can't get a 1st round pick, I'm keeping him. And if he shows up for 8 games, great. And then I'll franchise tag him if I want to keep him again. And he can decide what he wants to do that. I'm not going to be pressured into making a bad trade if I'm the 49ers by Brandon Aiyuk or anybody else.
But I think the problem is that teams know, if you don't want to pay that contract and you feel that paying that contract is just bad and wrong, bad business, and you're not going to do it, then you'll trade him for a 2nd round pick, right? The options here are trade him for what you can get, the most you can get, or let him play out the extension and get a 3rd round comp pick next year. That's what your options are. Because you're not willing to extend him. You're not willing to pay him.
You can franchise him after the 5th year option. So then you get him for another year. And
they just haven't been that kind of team. They want to be the player friendly team that says, because if and when they trade Brandon Aiyuk tomorrow or the next day, what are they going to do? They're going to say, you know what? We just wanted to do right by Brandon. How many times has John Lynch said that? We just were thinking about, we put Brandon's interest first, not us.
Yeah, that's a lie.
But that's what they say. When have they gone to war with the player and be like, oh, he wants out? Sorry, you signed a contract. They just don't really do the stuff like that. Because John Lynch is always like, I was a player. I know how it feels. I was a player. I wouldn't want my business put out in the public. I wouldn't want to be held against my will. That's right.
That's not why he doesn't talk about stuff. He doesn't want to talk about it. He just couches it as, oh, I remember what it was like. Like, it's such
But it's
BS.
posturing.
If it helped him,
you can't posture as the player-friendly team anymore if you go to war with Aiyuk.
but if it helped him to talk about the negotiations in public, he would. It helps him to shut up about it. That's why he shuts up about it. It's not because he used to be a player.
I mean, look, it's
ridiculous.
possible that they will make him play out his fifth-year option. They'll be like, look, we don't like these offers. The Colts are interested. Okay, well, the offensive lineman we want at 15 isn't there, and Bowers isn't there, and we don't want another wide receiver other than you. So guess what? You're going to play for us this year. You're going to play for $14 million. You're going to enjoy it, and we'll see what happens next year. Sorry. That could be what they do, but I just don't really see it happening.
But I think you can do it if you let Ayuk's team go out and look for a deal, right? And I think that's why they've done that, because they say, look, you think you can get a better get a better deal than what we've been offered? Great. We would love that. We're happy to do it if you can find a better deal. And if they go out there and they don't have that deal, then the 49ers are not the bad guy anymore. They're like, look, you couldn't get a good
you're
deal.
Overestimating your market.
So now you expect us to trade you for less? Like, no, we're not doing that. And I kind of get it from the 49ers perspective, because maybe if that deal is not out there, Aiyuk is like, well, damn, if nobody's going to get me this money, maybe I take what the 49ers are offering. I stay in a place that by all accounts, TJ Hushmanzada just went on 95.7 the game. That's Ayuk's personal wide receiver coach, and said he wants to be in San Francisco. So maybe Aiyuk goes out there and says, damn, the league doesn't value me the way I want. I'll either take what the Niners are offering, or maybe I'll try to play on the fifth-year option, try to ball out again. And then if I hit the market, the deal will be there for me. And maybe he looks at it.
But here's what's tough, though. What if Aiyuk did find what he wanted? What if, let's say, Jacksonville is saying, yeah, we'll pay you $30 million a year, and we'll trade the Niners our first-round pick. And the Niners get there and they get cold feet and they're like, oh, we don't like the people on the board at 17. Then what happens? It's like, wait a second. You asked me I found the trade. They're willing to give you a first. Like, you don't like the people on the board? Come on. So I still think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen with Jacksonville.
That's the danger of letting them go out and find the deal. You run it. Help you. It could also bite you in the ass, like you just said.
I just think the Niners don't want people to know. I think it's probably going to happen. Jacksonville 17, and it just doesn't help them at all to make the trade today.
No,
and for people to know that they're going to do it, so they're going to try their best to make it seem like, yeah, sure, we're going to keep Brandon. Yeah, Brandon, he's going to stay here. Like, we'll see.
You can't make it now, because let's say you make it now and the Niners are at 17, and all of a sudden the tackles start to come off the board, and there's like a Miami. Yeah, right. They'll jump in front of you. If you make it now. So that's why you have to wait until, if it's going to be Jacksonville, you wait till Jacksonville's on the clock, and then you do the deal.
Also, like, I think we can all guess, if the Niners trade Aiyuk, it's pretty clear it's going to be to Jacksonville or Indy or maybe Pittsburgh, but probably Jacksonville or Indy, probably Jacksonville. We have no idea who the Niners want. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Maybe an offensive lineman. It might be a defensive freaking tackle. You know what I'm saying? We have no idea. So that is one thing that they have going for them, is there's still some mystery as to what they'd be looking for with the top 17 pick.
That's true. You don't necessarily know they would go offensive line. Maybe they won't. They've taken one offensive lineman in the first round in the entire Shanahan-Lynch era.
Maybe they get a freaking corner. I don't know.
I wouldn't hate that either. Brother Bob says, Niners % to get to and win a Super Bowl without Brandon Aiyuk in 2024. I don't think it's that much lower than it would be with him, especially if they strengthen the offensive line or the secondary or some other position. Can we just remind,
like, again, the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, who's objectively better than Brandon Aiyuk, and then won back-to-back Super Bowls. They did it. Like, you don't have to have a high-level number one wide receiver to win a Super Bowl like the Patriots never did. And I know you're going to say, well, those guys had great quarterbacks. The Niners have a very good quarterback, too, and they have a great tight end, and they have an excellent slot receiver and a great running back. You could take Aiyuk off this team and still have among the best group of weapons in the league, not counting whoever you're going to draft with that, in round 2.
I completely agree with you. And I know he made the big catch against the Lions, but that play came on first down, first of all. So let's say the ball falls incomplete. The Niners could still drive down the field. That didn't put any points on the board. So if that was his most impactful play in the playoffs, what are we talking about here? I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's a very good player. But the idea that if you don't have Brandon Aiyuk, your season's down the drain, I just don't buy that.
It just seems like if you're the kind of team that wants to play offense this way, you're a run first team, play action second, drop back third. You're going to often rank top 10 in rushing attempts and bottom 5 in passing attempts. Wide receiver is a clear position where you should be saving money. Doesn't mean you don't want good wide receivers. You want great wide receivers, but are you paying for them?
Right.
Fuck no. Sorry. Absolutely not. Write it down. Down. 44.59. Yeah.
It's down. Don't worry. That's the one I definitely got to go back.
I just did one. I'm done.
Don't worry. Everybody sneaks them in. Even I let a couple fly, especially after losses.
Yeah.
Texan by nature 88 says do a pick swap with Jacksonville. You can move that pick up as well. Come on, front office. I don't want to do a pick swap. I'd like to have 2 first-round picks, please. I don't want to do a swap.
No, I mean, again, AJ Brown got traded for pick 18 and 101. The Niners should be asking for something like that. Pick 17 and 1 something. Fourth. That's what you want.
To me, I wouldn't accept less than that. How could you not? And people are like, oh, AJ Brown is so good. I think you're thinking of AJ Brown with the Eagles. AJ Brown with the Titans was pretty much statistically what Brandon Aiyuk has been, really.
Yeah.
So,
and it was, again, he's like, oh, you're on a run first team. They want to give it to Derrick Henry. He's getting about 100 targets a year. The Eagles saw an opportunity. They felt we could pay for that. We'll give the first round pick and give him what he's worth. And it's worked out for them, although they haven't won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
So
obviously.
That's
they
the
also
goal.
Got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, sure.
Like the 49ers did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely Jacksonville in the mix. Indy that you threw out earlier is really interesting. I still think Pittsburgh is going to be in the mix. Could there be the quote unquote mystery team? Could it be the Chargers? Would the Chargers be interested in a deal now that they have gotten rid of some players? I know they could draft somebody if they wanted to, but like you talked about, Ayuk's a proven guy, and first-round wide receivers bust a lot. Could Jim Harbaugh be in the mix?
That's the one I thought of immediately. Like, he'd be a perfect fit with Justin Herbert, and they don't have any wide receivers. And if they want to compete right away, like Harbaugh does, like that would be a good player for them. But sort of the same logic applies. Like, how much are they going to pass? Now, that'd be like, who are they going to pass to this year is kind of a wild question. So, yeah, I think they would make sense. They can't trade their first-round pick. They can't do that. Although that you could do, like, get the 5th-round pick and then trade the 31 with Aiyuk, but I don't even know if that'd be enough.
You'd have to include the first-round pick at least.
Yeah, at least.
That's a more complicated thing. How about a bidding war? How about John Lynch on the phone with Jim Harbaugh in one ear and Trent Baalke in the other ear? Then that's what you got to do, Grant. You got to get Harbaugh and Baalke bidding against one another because you know those guys hate each other's guts. That's what you really want if you're John Lynch.
Well, the Colts thing came out of nowhere today. Like, they haven't been mentioned. And Daniel Jeremiah put it out in a way like it's not necessarily reporting it. He's just like, when I think of destinations, I keep coming back to these two teams. So what's interesting is, like, the Steelers made it clear that they're pursuing and they have pick 20. The Jaguars would be more appealing to the Niners because they have pick 17. All of a sudden the Colts at pick 15 are out of nowhere. Like, it seems like the Niners are trying to inch their way up the first round little by little. I don't know if the Colts would really do it, but it doesn't. We know Trent Baalke. Is he desperate enough? Is he arrogant enough to try to do this? 150%. Yes. Yes.
Looking at some tweets from Tim Kawakami, he doesn't think the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal affects Aiyuk that much. He said, I don't think Ayuk's camp was waiting for St. Brown's deal to come in. I'm sure they have a number that is not low, but the Niners are tough negotiators, especially in April. And in this case, maybe that's not the wisest position. I don't understand.
Who said that?
Kawakami said that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like, before today, I think most Niner fans would have guessed that Aiyuk is asking for $27 million a year. And I don't know why that was the number that most Niner fans thought was reasonable, but I think that it's probably been 30 or more than that the whole time. And that may have blown Niner fans' minds. And maybe that blows the Niners front office's mind.
More from Kawakami. I'll put it this way. 49ers know where they'll likely end up with Aiyuk if this goes to August. I'm sure Ayuk's camp number is quite high now. In the past cases, the 49ers' April offer was pretty low, causes tension. Might be the case this time too. Why not make the real offer now? Well, I completely agree with that. Lynch said it in the press conference that he'd like to get these deals done earlier. So why not make the real offer now? At least then, you know, one way or another, this is our offer. take it or leave it, and we know where we stand. Because I hate uncertainty in life, Grant. I hate it.
Because if you make the offer now, then you still have to meet them in the middle down the road. So you're not. They're going to win. If you have a certain number in mind, you have to drag it out to August and make the other side feel like they're compromising to get there. I mean, if you just go there right away, the negotiation isn't over. They're just going to meet you halfway on the new number. Like, that's why.
Here's my offer. Take it or leave it. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Why not? We know the numbers, right? We know what Devontae Smith got. We know what the top of the market is. We know what Amon-Ra St. Brown got. It's not hard to find the number. It's all based on the previous contracts. So stop screwing around. And why do we have to play this game? No games. Just hammer it out one way or another.
Because I don't know, man. Maybe they feel like Aiyuk wants $30 million a year and he's not going to settle for less. And they're not going to go there. So what are you talking about? What negotiation is there?
Kyle Kami, I think, agrees with you. He said the Niners side would probably argue that if they go high now and Ayuk's camp turns it down, the Niners have just given up their leverage. I get this. But waiting too long, which also happened with Bosa last year, definitely ups the April angst. I don't think the Niners give up their leverage because, again, they don't have to do anything.
Was there angst with Bosa? Everyone said that he was coming back. There was never a consideration of trading him. Ever.
Right. Consideration of trading him, but like he almost missed games.
Yeah, sure. But he didn't. I mean, they gave him everything he wanted. I don't know. It just seems like it's clear that, to me, I don't think he's getting this extension with the Niners. That's what I feel like. He's not getting this extension with the Niners. He has no reason to compromise with them. The market's in his favor. They don't want to get into that market. He's either going to get traded or he's going to play out his fifth-year option. And I think he's going to get traded. That would be so explosive because he would sit out. He would not be there for training camp. He would not play the first few games. He would hurt the 49ers. And I think it would hurt their reputation around the league. Like, why do you treat a guy like this? Why?
I don't think they're treating Brandon Aiyuk poorly at all. I think they're treating him the way that teams should treat
creating
players.
An adversarial relationship with an all-pro player. Why?
Because I'm trying to get you signed for the lowest amount. I'm not just going to acquiesce to every player demand simply to have a good relationship with players. That's not how
that's how they've been for 7 years. So this would be a whole new, this would be a heel turn. All of a sudden they'd be, the bad guys in the WWF.
No, I don't think so. I disagree. I mean, Kittle's first offer was so bad they called it the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Trent Williams had to call Kyle Shanahan on the phone and be like, "Hey, dude, they're about to trade me. Make sure."
Yeah, but they came through. They all had happy endings. This would not be a happy ending for. Can you say that on television? This would not be a good outcome for Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope it happens. I really want to see that kind of dynamic in the locker room. See how that goes.
Texan by Nature 88 says, "Stats, who puts their best wide receiver in the doghouse?"
Kyle Shanahan.
That is them doing Brandon Aiyuk dirty. On that, I agree. He never should have been in the doghouse. It was absolutely stupid and ridiculous that Kyle Shanahan froze him out for half a season for no reason, just because Kyle doesn't like rookie wide receivers. That he's got legitimate beef with. I agree.
And it's like, if he had done that to Deebo, I would have understood. A guy who maybe isn't always in the best shape or doesn't always block that hard or doesn't always give his best effort when he doesn't have the ball. Okay, you go in the dog. I understand. We're not going to give you an extension. We're going to franchise tag you. We're going to go year by year because we question your motivation. I would understand that. But with Aiyuk, he shows up to practice. He does block. He does run clear out routes. Like, under what pretense are you going year to year with him? Just because you want to keep him under market value? Like, that's not even fair. You don't do business like that. You didn't do that with Armstead. Instead of keeping Armstead for under market value, you said, "Hey man, go ahead and find we'll cut you." Like, why do they cut Eric Armstead? Because they're just so friendly.
Just seeing this on Twitter. I'm in full conspiracy mode, Grant. Rap Sheet just tweeted out, the Steelers have done a simple restructure of the salary of pass rusher Alex Highsmith to create more than $7 million in salary cap space. A little breathing room.
Okay, so I think there's 3 teams who are getting ready to make offers for Aiyuk on draft day. 15, 17, 20. And there might be another one. But, dude, this guy's getting traded. He is getting traded. And frankly, I think it's the right move, but it's all going to depend on who they get with that pick. Because if it's the next Tristan Wirfs, brilliant trade. If it's the next whomever, Javon Kinlaw, then no. So they got to make sure the guy has 2 good knees, and
It's kind of a bare
really
minimum.
important.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to actually throw that out in the chat. That's a good question. Would it be worth it to you if I told you that the Niners traded Brandon Aiyuk and got a really good right tackle or a really good defensive lineman or a really good corner? In your eyes, would it be worth it? Because I think some people would say no, even if they got a good player. I think in some people's eyes, Brandon Aiyuk is more valuable than a really good right tackle. And I don't know that I agree in this offense.
Well, I think the idea is if you trade up to 17, that you might get a player who could be a left tackle one day. I mean, that's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to get Troy Fatanu from Washington, he is the kind of guy who could play left tackle eventually. He played left tackle in college. He has the length and athleticism to do it, but he could also play guard for a year or two. He could play whatever position you need him to play on your offensive line until Trent Williams retires, and he just improves your team. He does. So I don't know. But again, like everyone hates the Buckner trade. I hated the Buckner trade. If they had drafted Tristan Wirfs, it would have been one of the best trades in franchise history. So,
yeah, the problem with the Buckner situation is not the trade. It's what they did with the pick.
Right.
The trade, they weren't going to sign him. They maximized the value for a player that was not going to be part of their team going forward. That's great process.
And what did they learn from that trade? Like, you drafted Buckner with the 7th pick. He outproduced and outperformed his draft position. You traded him for, I want to say, the 13th pick, and you tried to replace him with a player at the same position. Like, how was a D tackle picked 13th realistically going to be as good as Buckner, who was drafted higher, had more production in college, like was a legitimate pass rushing, not just talent, but producer? Even if he had 2 good knees, how was Kinlaw ever going to live up to that? It was tough.
He would have.
It was tough.
He was put in a very difficult spot.
Yeah.
Nick Ellert, YouTube channel member. Appreciate you, Nick. Shout out to all our YouTube channel members. I see some people coming back after the Super Bowl, which I really appreciate. So thanks everybody for that. It's less than $3 a month. It's a fantastic way to support the channel. Nick says the Commanders have picks 36 and 40. Would you trade Aiyuk and our 3rd for those 2? Gives us 3 picks in the top 40. I would not, even though that is the smart thing. A lot of people that have studied the draft will tell you just trade down, get more picks. I wouldn't do that. Would you do that deal for 36 and 40, Grant? But you got to give up Aiyuk and a 3rd.
Well, let me see what 36 and 40 are worth if you add them together. 36 is worth 540 points, and 40 is 500. Add them together, that's 1140, and that's roughly the 15th pick in the draft. So it's a fair trade. You know, if the Niners, let's say the Colts are an option. If they don't like who's on the board there and they feel like they'd rather have 2 seconds than whoever the best player available at 15 is, that's a choice they can make. I mean, I think there's probably going to be an offensive lineman that could potentially be a left tackle that they should get in the top 20. But if they disagree and say, look, you know, the best guy available is going to be Talisi Fuaga, and he's really just a right tackle, and we don't want to take a right tackle. We did that with McGlinchey, and it didn't work out. We're not going to give a second contract to a right tackle in round 1. So let's take the 2nd round picks. I would get it. But isn't that what they thought about Wirfs? They're like, he's just a right tackle. No, he's a left tackle. No. He can play left tackle. He's great. He's a great player. You should have had him.
That one stings.
Yeah.
It's 36 and 40. I'd still say no. I think that there's a 1st round pick out there. I really do believe that there's a 1st round. How could there not be a 1st round pick?
I think there is. If Jacksonville offers 17 and there's an offensive lineman on the board that you really like, just take it. Just take it.
It'll be
but
interesting.
Don't do it for a defensive tackle, please. Please.
It'll be interesting to see the reaction, because I think we all crushed the 49ers last year for not taking an offensive lineman. So if they take an offensive lineman this year, but in order to do it, they trade Brandon Aiyuk, I'll be interested to see where people come down on that, because I think they'd still probably take some criticism.
Again, I still think what they can do, trade Aiyuk, spend that pick on an offensive lineman, improve the offensive line, give Kittle more targets, give Jennings more targets, keep Deebo for 1 more year, draft a wide receiver in round 2, and ask him, can you handle 50 targets this year? And he might be a lot better than that. Rashid Rice had 100 as a rookie, but just put him in a role where he's getting 3-4 targets a game and let him go from there. That could work.
I am a strong proponent of that plan, especially if you're increasing Deebo's targets, you're increasing Kittle's targets.
And Jennings. They'll go from a guy who had 19 catches to maybe a guy who has 40 catches.
It's very possible that the 49ers are a stronger, better offense with more targets to Kittle, more targets to Deebo, more targets to Jennings, and a better offensive line.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes.
That's not like a pie in the sky thing that we, could own our wildest dreams. Like, that's a really logical, reasonable situation.
Yeah. And again, you're not sacrificing much in your skill position group. You're still going to have 4 really good guys and a rookie who may run a 4.3 and was a top 40 pick. And really, Kyle's pretty good at drafting wide receivers in that range. He missed on Dante Pettis. He hit on Deebo and he hit on Aiyuk. If he comes to you and you're John Lynch and Kyle says, look, I really feel uncomfortable about paying Brandon Aiyuk $30 million a year. I don't think we can really get the bang for the buck there. And I think I'm telling you, this wide receiver at 35, I'm telling you, he's going to be really good. I would listen to Kyle on that. I'd be like, all right, I trust you.
And I also kind of like the idea of moving Aiyuk out and forcing this offense to have to evolve. It would look a lot different. I think if Kittle did get a lot more targets, they wouldn't come with him tight to the formation. I think you'd see Kittle in the slot a lot more. The offense would just look a lot different, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I know we're all attached to 11. Don't get attached, because I think he's caught his last pass for the 49ers.
I just think he needs to be playing with a quarterback who has a stronger arm and a coach who is more committed to drop back passing. If Aiyuk were on the Rams, he'd kill it. He needs to go to a team like that. And the Niners, I mean, they're a run first team. They're play action second. Their quarterback has among the weakest arms in the league. Like, they need to play to his strengths. That's Kittle. That's Jennings. That's wide receivers who make $8 to $11 million a year. That's why they were interested in Tyler Boyd. Like, you don't have to break the bank at that position with this quarterback and this team. Spend it on the offensive line. Spend it on defense. Spend it on tight ends.
One more sleep to go, and then expect, as Brandon Aiyuk said a little while ago, expect some fireworks, because I think we're going to see them. Just a quick reminder to everybody watching, I will be live on draft night right here on the Gold Standard Network YouTube channel. So click the little bell. You'll get notified when we go live. Probably going to be around pick 28 or so, which is going to be late night for me here on the East Coast, but that's okay. We will be live with you. Please join us. I know you're going to be at the facility, Grant. I'm fast. Are they going to do a presser? Do you know, right after the pick, or is it going to be a conference call, or what's going on there?
The way they do it is they'll do a presser at the end of the night.
They will do one. Okay.
At the end of the night when they're all done, because they could trade Aiyuk for pick 17, make a pick, but they still have pick 31. They still have things they got to do. And even if they do trade up, they could always trade back into the back end of the first round. So they'll wait usually until the end of the round, and they'll do it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it'll be 3 press conferences in 3 days. It'll be interesting.
Oh, baby. We got one more super chat here before we go. Guru Ramprakash says, would the Niners trade Aiyuk and draft the defensive end Latu?
Yes.
He had that medical retirement, though. That scares the hell out of me.
It does. But would they trade Aiyuk and draft a defensive lineman? Yes. Would I like that? No.
I think Niner fans would absolutely lose their mind if it happens.
Because if you're trading Aiyuk, I mean, to help your defense, what? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like, don't judge it after one night. Judge the whole draft. Like, if let's say Aiyuk can take an offensive lineman, but then they get a wide receiver early on day 2, like, you're going to feel differently about it when you see the whole thing. So we got to wait for the entire draft to be over to know for sure, even though I will be instantly reacting on draft night.
It just makes sense to me to trade Aiyuk to put resources into another area of your offense. But to trade Aiyuk to put resources into another area of your defense is like, why? Wait a second. You have a quarterback you really like. I'm just saying that it might help Brock more to have a really good offensive line than super expensive wide receivers.
We'll see what the Niners do. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Like and subscribe to both channels, Grant Cohn's YouTube channel and the Gold Standard YouTube channel. We will talk to you tomorrow.